Hello everyone, this is Misa, and today I'm here to bring you a sort of remake of a work that already exists on the channel, but it's from the old phase of the channel, and that's why I decided to make a new one and continue this part as well. The story revolves around two characters who end up meeting as children in a hospital. However, after that contact, they end up meeting again many years later when the protagonist is transferred to that little boy's school. But now that little boy is no longer so young, and moreover, he is one of the troublemakers at school. Their first meeting is not the best, and they don't even manage to recognize each other. There's a challenging atmosphere, and the protagonist then decides to ignore him since he is a troublemaker at school. During her school year, she ends up making friends with a girl, and they spend a lot of time together. However, her friend actually has a crush on that boy from her childhood, and apparently the crush is only from the friend since he seems to be not interested at all. The protagonist, because of her friend, tries to ignore all the initial interaction they had, but apparently the guy is keen on provoking her. She tries her best not to have any conversation with him because of her friend, but it seems that things are destined to trace the path for both of them, making them meet several times in different situations, and they end up getting closer. But because of the crush that her friend has on the guy, the protagonist realizes that maybe she doesn't stand a chance, and the best option would be to give up those feelings, which makes the situation increasingly complex because her friend keeps pursuing the guy, and the protagonist always feels awkward, trying to avoid him as much as possible. However, as if they were destined, even while she is ignoring him, their paths cross several times in the same school, which puts her in a pretty complicated situation, when he ends up confessing that he actually likes her. And then, what would you do in that situation? Let's go ahead and start this story. It's called Can You Hear Me? And I've made it up to chapter 26. The story begins a few years ago. Doctors were moving a woman on a stretcher covered with a blood-stained white sheet, while a child observed on a cold and silent night. The child was watching the still hand of the woman on the stretcher. The images of the boy's mother being killed kept replaying in his mind. The woman's son felt as if he were lost in the darkness without air. He imagined that his only way out was death, and just when he was about to give up, a girl asked what the boy was doing. With tear-filled eyes, the child looked at the one in front of him who seemed more like a light at the end of the tunnel. Sitting in a chair with graceful clothes and curious eyes, the young girl took the boy's hand while searching for something in her small blue bag. Then she placed a strawberry candy in the boy's hand. She told the little boy that perhaps he was in a bad situation at that moment, but that life treats everyone the same in the end. Hopeful, the girl said that her mother told her that life is like a plum, always sour before it becomes sweet, surprising the boy after saying that if he could hold on a little longer, his life would improve. The young girl stood up to leave when the desperate boy asked her name. Smiling, the girl with a butterfly mark on her cheek waved as she said it would be a secret, and that if fate allowed, they would meet again. Many years later, the day was clear and beautiful but hot in the middle of summer. A man was sweating from the heat while evaluating a certain student. The old literature teacher said he had great expectations for the transferred student as she handed him a small white cloth. Lin Weixia, the transferred girl with a butterfly on her cheek, now 17 years old, thanked the teacher's compliments and stated that she would do her best not to disappoint him. Wiping his sweat, the teacher commented that the school had already made other offers to the girl and expressed his surprise that she accepted the offer this time. The young girl said that this time she had a reason to accept the school's offer. A sign presented the third class of the second year. The same classroom was in a mess from the commotion of students playing and talking. The teacher hit something wooden to make noise, catching attention and asking the students for silence. Telling the students to welcome their new classmate, the young girl introduced herself as Lin Weixia and said it was a pleasure to meet them. Then the classroom quickly filled with whispers and speculations about the girl. Jia asked the teacher where she should sit, and he responded that she could sit wherever it was vacant. A young boy raised his hand and announced that there was an empty seat next to him. The protagonist walked to the spot while receiving the gaze of everyone in the room. The other girls commented that luckily she was not sitting next to Ban Sheng because there were not many girls who were worthy of sitting next to him. The protagonist noticed an empty desk with the notebook written with the name the girls just mentioned. She sat next to the boy who introduced himself as Ning Chao, and after introducing herself, asked if the boy was also recruited by the school. He responded that the school, to maintain its reputation, periodically recruits some students who are under social care, and these are called F students. Like him. He also commented that the school's hierarchy is a bit silly, but she will understand soon. Jia only responded, intrigued about how it would be from now on. The teacher announced the end of the class and that the representative should collect the assignments. Jia, after leaving class, headed to the girls' bathroom. Girls in the girls' bathroom lamented the absence of someone at school and the fact that they had dressed up for the boy who had missed class. They joked, teasing that he only had eyes for basketball and astronomy and probably wouldn't have space for anything else. When the bathroom door opened, one of the girls in the bathroom smiled warmly, greeting Jia by name, saying that she thought Jia was lying when she mentioned that she would come to this school. On the terrace, Jia is impressed that Jia decided to go to this school, commenting that her exam score was almost better than that of the best student in the institution. Curious, the protagonist asked who the top student in the school was. Blushing, the young girl's friend pronounced the name Ban Sheng, the same one many girls had mentioned. Jia only asked if he was the guy from the observatory, to which Sijia agreed, saying that she probably heard the other girls talking and that, in fact, the observatory belongs to him, as his family donated 2 buildings to the school. Seeing that her friend was just fiddling with her phone, Sijia asked what she was doing, and the protagonist replied that she was messaging Bansheng to deliver her Chinese homework, as she needed to take it to the teacher. Excited, Sijia announced that she would help the class representative by taking the phone from her hand. She then began typing on the girl's phone. All excited, her friend said that the homework would be delivered on Saturday at 5 p.m. and that she would go pick it up in Zia's place, and quickly asked her friend's help to decide what to wear for the occasion. On Saturday afternoon at an internet cafe in the neighborhood, Zia knows that her new school does not allow students to work, so today will be her last day. When something in front of her pay for the damages caused by their fight. When Zia picked up the ID card, she noticed a familiar name, Ban Sheng. As soon as she realized who it was and fearing what might happen to that boy who was dragged away, she ran after them in the rain. Ban and his friends were in an alley with that guy begging at their feet. Even though the guy was asking him to stop hitting him, Ban said it was too late for that. The protagonist arrived at that moment, calling out to him. This caught him off guard. However, the moment he looked at her face, he noticed the butterfly mark near her eye and remembered that little girl from the past. Everyone stood still, reacting to the appearance of that girl. Jia told him to stop, grabbed his sleeve before he could continue. This caught him off guard. The protagonist questioned why he was using violence instead of talking. However, a boy at the back became stressed and asked what the girl was saying, but he was stopped from continuing by Ban. The troublemaker just dropped the bat on the ground, scaring the boy who was still kneeling on the ground. Soon, Ban told the frightened boy to get out of there, and quickly the boy cries, it was Sijia. Sad for having waited 2 hours for Ban without him showing up, she quickly replies to her friend to send her the location as she is going to pick her up. Irritated and without saying anything to the guy, she just runs out into the rain towards her friend. One of the guys says they should leave too since it seemed like a typhoon was coming. He just patted the younger one's head and told him they should leave, but he couldn't help feeling a bit disappointed, as it seemed she didn't recognize him from when they were kids. The rain was heavy in a certain place. Sijia was crying when the protagonist put her jacket on her, apologizing, saying she had been stuck in traffic, which was why she was late. Tearfully, her friend hugged Zia tightly, thanking her. Comforting her friend, the protagonist commented that next time if no one shows up, she shouldn't wait. Awkwardly, the girl just said she was bored. The two prepared to leave, when Sijia, looking sad, started to speak about today. But the protagonist assured her that she wouldn't tell anyone what had happened there. The two walked, sharing an umbrella in the heavy rain, until her friend stops and asks to stop for a moment because she needs to buy something. Smiling, she asks a vendor if they sold cigarettes of a specific brand, to which he quickly replied they were sold out and if she liked another brand. Awkwardly, she comments that the guy only likes that brand. Xia can't quite understand her friend. Is a guy like Ban Sheng really worth all this effort? The next day, Xia is filling her water bottle when some girls start commenting on her being new at school. As soon as one of the girls touches her arm and calls her, she notices the blue bow on the uniform, commenting that she didn't know she was an F student. Xia, not understanding, replies that yes. This leaves the girl irritated and disgusted, making her even wipe her hand with a napkin. As they walk away, the other girls comment that her appearance is pretty, but it's a shame she's a failed F. The young girl's classmate asked her to ignore the A students because they always acted arrogantly toward F students. Walking back to class, the girl comments that she sits very close to Xia in class, and before the girl says her name, the protagonist shows that she knows her name is Fangmo. This makes the girl smile happily when she found out that she already knew her name. A bit confused by what happened, Xia decides to ask why those girls called her an F student. Mo then explained that the A students wear red bow ties and the F students wear blue bow ties, which is how they distinguish themselves. Still confused, she asks what the difference was between F students and A students. A students usually come from good families and get good grades, so they are always at the top in their field since birth. However, F students are more complex since some get bad grades, some come from common families, or were transferred from other schools and are considered weak and mediocre. Basically, they are students from different social classes who happen to be in the same school, but A students tend to look down on F students, who usually just ignore the A students. When suddenly Sijia hugs the protagonist from behind, saying she had been looking for her and asks if they could have lunch together. Being pulled away, the young girl just said she was going, while the bespectacled girl just wished her a good lunch. In the cafeteria, Sijia shares food with Xia, saying it was all made by her housekeeper. The protagonist hands a drink to her friend, saying it's a soda with little sugar, which will probably please her more. Other students seeing the scene comment that they are really his friend who called him brother was stressed and said that the guy with glasses had stolen money from an old lady even after being punished twice. However, as soon as Ban notices Zia's presence, he asks his friend to drop it and stop talking about that subject. The two are eating peacefully until Sijia gets super excited and calls Xia, who doesn't understand anything, but her friend is thrilled that Ban came to eat in the cafeteria. Suddenly, she stands up, grabbing Xia's cup in her hand, claiming that she would switch glasses with her friend because the guy liked sweet drinks. So she would take that glass to him and take the opportunity to ask about the appointment he missed. Humming, the young girl walked away. Not seeming very interested, Ban doesn't even look at the poor girl while she talks, which irritates the protagonist a bit due to his attitude. Sijia quickly returns, saying she is very happy because he accepted the drink, even though he had another one on the table. Curious, the protagonist asks about the weekend appointment, and her friend replies that the boy had apologized for not going because something unexpected had happened. And since the boy had decided to drink the drink, she decided to forgive him. It was then that Zia glanced sideways to look at him and noticed Ban's gaze on her. He took the drink he had received and pierced the lid with a straw to drink it, while looking at her with a provocative smile as he drank his beverage. Noticing the guy's action, she just turned back around, slightly embarrassed, wondering if he had done it on purpose. The two classmates were walking to their classroom when the bespectacled girl asked about the commotion in the classroom. A group of girls was talking among themselves about touching up their makeup to catch someone's attention when Mo noticed the reason for the commotion. Ban had returned to attending classes. A classmate asked if he had seen a basketball game the night before. When the protagonist passed by him, Ban tried to discreetly notice if she was still ignoring him, and she really was. Mo comments that Ban comes from a very wealthy family and gets good grades. Even though he is cold, the girls like him for his looks and intelligence. And then she asks if Saya can see the tattoo he has on his ankle. A black lily that rumors say he tattooed to honor the girl he is in love with, even though it goes against the school's rules. The friend adds that he probably is only interested in A-grade girls. However, the conversation is cut off when he throws the exercise notebook on the table, saying that this was his Chinese exercise, and for the next time, she should send someone else to pick it up. Everyone in the room is impressed that the famous Ban Sheng talked to an F student. Even her friend was excited, but it was more because Jia didn't even respond to him. The protagonist puts away her notebook, somewhat irritated, as it was the same tone he used that night. Then a voice on the school's loudspeaker asked all students to gather immediately on the field for a motivational meeting for the new semester, and that the student council would conduct a surprise inspection of uniforms and class behavior. All the students were heading to the field. They were going down the stairs when Mo noticed that Jia wasn't wearing her ID badge till he extends his hand and asks if this was what she was looking for. Jia takes the badge, thanking him, but before she finishes her sentence, he leans closer, saying that he didn't find the old one but made a new one, putting all his charm on display. He steps back, saying that she owes him $12 for that, and leaves before she can even respond. The poor girl's heart won't withstand these advances, and she wonders why he helped her. The school field was soon full of students after the announcement of the motivational meeting for the new semester. Whispering, Mo asks Xia if she had found her ID badge, as the student council would be conducting an inspection soon, so her hair shouldn't be covering it, when suddenly someone shouted Lin Weixia's name. The red-haired leader of the student council asks if Weiqia had memorized the school rules and that she had 1 minute to tie up her hair. However, the protagonist explains that she couldn't tie her hair at that moment, and that her situation had already been explained to her teachers before she entered the school. With disdain, the redhead asked if the so-called F students were getting too full of themselves, and questioned if Lin thought even the student council couldn't control her. But suddenly, the girl pauses her sentence and approaches, asking if Xia is so poor that she can't even buy a hair tie. Everyone around who was following the situation began to laugh at the dark-haired girl, calling her a shameless beggar. Except her classmate, all the others continued laughing at the girl and mocking her for being an F student. However, the protagonist stands firm and says that she has already explained the situation to the teachers, so if the girl has any problem, she should ask them. This makes her even more irritated, then advanced towards Xia, claiming that if she had entered that school, she should follow the rules and that she herself would tie Lin's dark hair. Suddenly, someone shouted for them to stop and holds the arrogant girl's hand, which quickly breaks free, but is surprised to see Sijia, who asks her classmate not to abuse her position and to stop bothering Xia. Confused, the redhead asked why Sijia was defending that F girl and what her relationship with her was. Hearing the question, she recalls the previous occasion when she was upset in the rain, and Weiqia came to her to have liked the comment at all. Nervous, he gave up and said he wouldn't ask again about what happened the previous day. Changing the subject, the boy moved closer to look at the paper on his desk and saw that he had scored 98% on the test. This caught Lin's attention as she sat behind them when she heard how much the young man had scored on the test. The girl looked on curiously while Ban's friend excitedly asked him to share his secret to getting such high scores. Then, Ban simply tossed a milk carton into the shorter guy's hands, claiming that he should drink plenty of milk to become smart. Jia just smiled in silence, finding the situation between the two amusing. She was impressed because the tests at that school were indeed very difficult, and if Bansheng had scored so high, he was truly intelligent, and she would have to work hard to catch up with him. Suddenly, Ban pulled a cup out of nowhere and poured a little soda into it. Apparently, the cup contained a type of pickled plum drink that, when mixed with soda, became somewhat salty, and his friend was impressed that he liked drinks like that. Ban, with a smirk, said that he had recently started to like salty drinks more than sweet ones. This made the protagonist smudge the physics calculations she was working on, and feeling embarrassed, it was probably the drink she had had the other day. Students were walking through the institution's corridor during break time while Sijia and Jia were talking, worried if the student can see, which makes her sad for not being able to perfectly understand his hobbies. The protagonist took her friend's hand and said she wasn't good at comforting people, but asked her not to try too hard for that guy. Oh my god, it's going to get harder and harder for this romance to happen with Sia, so in love like this. Holding Sia's hands, her friend asks her to help her win him over. 2 days later, Jia and Mo were leaving their classroom when the short-haired girl commented on how lucky the other had been to find her ID badge and for Sijia to intervene with the council, as it would have been very difficult for Jia to handle the situation as an F student. Again, the protagonist explained that she hadn't found her ID badge and that, in fact, Ban had given her that one. But before she could complete the phrase, someone suddenly called out to Wakeshia, saying that it was Shengran's birthday this weekend, so she was invited. I think Shengran is the red-headed girl from student council. Uninterested, Jia apologizes, so it was probably his idea to put different colors for the bow ties. Her colleague says she doesn't know the details, but when a student questioned this, the school just commented that it was a tradition. Back in the classroom, Sijia asks Jia to look at her phone, questioning if she had also been invited to the party that weekend, saying they could go together and was excited because Bansheng would probably be there. Jia began writing to her friend, saying that she had declined. However, she remembered the conversation they had earlier about helping out her friend and deleted her message, just saying, okay, agreeing to go to the party. But suddenly, the boy in front of her threw a notebook on Wakexia's desk. As soon as she opened the notebook, she finds a note from Bansheng thanking her for the money but stating that he didn't accept cash, writing down his WeChat ID, and with the note were the bills she had given him. The young girl just looked forward, slightly confused, and saw the boy's back just paying attention to the teacher and not bothering her anymore. She then added his contact to her WeChat. The young girl was sitting on her bed, fiddling with her phone, looking at a transfer of 12 wen she had sent to Ban that had a bus stop, fiddling with her phone to let Sijia know she was already at the foot of the mountain. But she actually has a horrible sense of direction, so she asks if her friend could pick her up. However, Sijia did not respond, and the sun set, getting darker. Sitting on the bus stop bench, she finally was able to reach her friend and asks if she had seen her message, because she was still at the foot of the mountain. But Sijia couldn't hear anything because of the noise from the party, and her friends were telling her to put down the phone. She just told her friend at the bus stop that she couldn't pick her up because she was busy. Realizing that it wouldn't be possible, Zia decides that it would be better to leave than to wander around lost. When suddenly, a black car stopped in front of her. The rear passenger window slowly rolled down, revealing a man in a black hoodie. Ban rested his arm where the window had been closed and smiled as he asked if the young girl was lost by any chance. The car sped along a long, illuminated road. The two were sitting in the back passenger seat without making eye contact or engaging in small talk. Then the driver warned his young master that the mountain road had many curves and that he should be careful. The driver gripped the steering wheel. Sijia sat down next to her friend to hand her an orange juice, mentioning that she decided to start giving Ban drinks every day. Trying to help her friend, Zia commented that he liked the sweet milk from a specific brand, which caught Sijia off guard, and immediately asked in desperation how she knew that. The protagonist commented that his habit of drinking milk in the morning is well known at school, and since she sits behind him, she ended up seeing the brand unintentionally. Smiling, Sijit, who complained that she almost fell on him. While the girl trembled on the ground, the guys laughed at the situation. The protagonist, seeing the scene, got irritated and started to walk towards the guys. But suddenly, a pale hand with a pink band-aid on the thumb grabbed her hand and pulled her in another direction, pushing her against the wall while still holding her hand. Outraged from the corner, the incompetent boys continued to harass the girl who remained seated on the floor while the arrogant blonde claimed the cookie was terrible and asked how she had the nerve to bring that to such a place. The brute blonde squatted near the girl, pressing his finger on her forehead as a form of insult, and asking if she had let her dandruff fall into the cookies while making them. The others joked about how disgusting the blonde's comment was while the girl remained kneeling on the floor, unable to react. Indignant, Wakexia could only watch while Ban held her arm to keep her from intervening. Irritated, she asked if he didn't realize that the woman was being bullied by those arrogant brutes. Even so, Ban said that if she went now, it would only make things worse. but the protagonist didn't care, and she said she would go anyway. But Ban held her arm, preventing her and calling her name. Quickly, he took off the band-aid and changed the subject, saying that he had a cactus thorn in his finger that he couldn't remove. The girl tried to argue, but he just looked into her eyes while showing her his finger and said that if she did it, he would let her go. Seeing that there wasn't much that could be done, she decided to do what he asked and started looking for the thorn. While she was looking at his finger, Ban explained that in situations like that, the more someone tried to help, the more the boys would continue to bully the girl. He assured her that someone would intervene, and that's why he asked her not to interfere. After letting go of his hand, she asked what the difference was between someone who watched it happen without doing anything and the one who was bullying. But before she could finish her sermon, she heard someone speaking loudly with the blonde. It was the birthday girl stepping in to protect the girl, saying she had called her friend for help and asked why they were bullying her. Relieved, Zia thought that probably now the girl would be safe. The young girl was about to leave when her arm was grabbed by the boy behind her, who asked her to wait. He pulled her in front of him and commented that the situation had already been resolved, asking for her attention. She replied that she had already removed the thorn from his finger. Then he pointed to his finger and remarked that she didn't put a band-aid on it. Impatient, Zia sighed and placed the bandage on the boy's index finger. After that, she started to leave, reminding him that he had promised she could go once she was done, so she was leaving, while he just watched her walk away. Thoughtfully, Ban understood that what Zia said was right, and maybe he was no better than those people. Hearing this made Zia stop for a moment without turning back. Lost in thought, he looked for her driver to take them home. Jia accepted the offer, knowing how bad she was with directions. Later that night, people were playing cards while discussing bets and tuition fees when one man mentioned that he had enrolled his daughter in an elite school to connect her with the wealthy. A black car stopped in front of the alley, and the driver announced that he could only take her that far because the path ahead was too narrow for the car to pass, to provoke and humiliate other students. Thoughtfully, with an angry expression, the young girl affirmed that now that she belonged to School X, she couldn't just stand by and do nothing about it. She then remembered people making nasty comments about whether she was disabled and could hear them because there was something strange about her ear. Jia was on the ground with her hand on her ear, probably in pain, and her hearing aid thrown on the floor. Suddenly, a boy stood in front of her, claiming he wouldn't let them hurt the girl behind him. The students called him a meddler and started beating him, throwing him to the ground. The boy told Wakeshia to get out of there quickly, and all Wakeshia that it tasted very bitter. Changing the subject, Sijia asks if Shia has thought about which club she will join, and if she hasn't chosen, they could join the basketball club together. She then rested her head on her arms, using them as a pillow, with a worried look as she thought that in the basketball club she wouldn't be able to avoid clashing with Ban, and wondered what she would do in that situation. In the school gym, in the basketball area, several students were gathered when Sijia asks why Ban is not coming to the basketball club. Ning, sweating as he threw a basketball, says that after Ban found out that girl would be here, he shot the ball, which went directly into the basketball hoop. Continued, saying that Ban simply didn't want to come anymore, showing his cool abs. Irritated, Sijia says that he doesn't even know how to speak properly, so he is a complete idiot. Mockingly, the boy asked what difference it made who is playing since, after all, his skills were better than Ban's, but he was quickly interrupted by his friend, who told him to stop provoking Sijia. The other guy tells her that Ban rarely attended the basketball club, only showing up a few times each semester, and not even participating in group activities, disappointing Sijia with the news. Disheartened and with her head down, Sijia says that she had joined the basketball club to get closer to Ban, but she hadn't even seen a trace of him in the club. Then she has an idea that seems brilliant to her. She then turned to grab the arm of her friend and asks if she could deliver a letter to Ban for her. Awkwardly, Jia responds uncertain about the idea, because she wasn't close to him. Even so, Sijia insists, saying that even though they aren't close, she sits right behind him, so she could slip the letter in when she passes the homework notebook. The protagonist continues hesitating and asks why her friend doesn't deliver it directly. Discouraged, Sijia says that she is afraid of being rejected, thinking about how her friend is lucky for not being so anxious. But as if it were a switch, she changes her mood and tells Zia that as soon as she manages to deliver the letter, she will then confess and tell him that she is the one who brings the milk leaving her in shock at the unexpected turn of events. She quickly turned around to grab the letter, but before she could pick up the letter, a hand grabbed it before she could. And to her misfortune, it was precisely the person who was supposed to receive the letter secretly. Surprised, Ban Sheng asks if this letter is for him. However, Xia does not respond and simply walks away while he opens the letter. Then, he quickly grabbed the girl's hand, preventing her from leaving, and he asks if she is inviting him out. But before Xia can respond, he smiles. Meeting. The sun shone brightly in the sky when the day of the meeting finally arrived. Students waited for the public bus, while Zia thought that since Ban had promised, he wouldn't miss the meeting this time. Awkwardly, she fidgeted with her hearing aid, hidden by her long hair, as she wondered why she felt a great and inexplicable unease in her heart. It was when the bus that had been blocking her view moved away that something in front of her caught her attention. On the other side of the street was Sijia, holding onto Ban's arm and chatting happily while he was distracted by his phone. The young girl seemed shocked by the scene and even removed her hand from her ear. As soon as Sijia saw her, she promptly called for her friend. However, Sa just ignored her, turning to the other side with the feeling that she had done something wrong and was afraid of being discovered. He just continued to stare at the girl while the girl next to him wondered if she hadn't heard her. Feeling sad, the young girl thought to herself again that Ban was the one who misunderstood and gripped the strap of her backpack, thinking that she had only delivered a message. But as soon as her phone vibrated in her pocket, she stopped for a moment to check it was a message from Sijia, informing her that she and Ban would be going out over the weekend and that she couldn't go for ice cream with her friend but promised to make it up to her. That makes the protagonist more relaxed and write it back for her friend to have fun. The day had passed and night had fallen. Later at home, Jia is checking her site You Can Hear. But for now, there are no comments. She is surprised by the notification on her phone. It's Mo asking if she saw the school forum. Everyone is commenting on a photo of Sijia, where she takes one inside Ban Sheng's house. While he is all model in clothes, but okay. In the pool, Mo comments that it's amazing to see a photo of someone so beautiful. Plus, it seems that Ban has started going to the pool again even after the incident. This message reminded the protagonist of some things. A few years ago, that boy who defended her from others was coughing a lot near a pool. Other guys who were there grabbed the boy by his clothes, calling him by the name Liang, and asking how he could be so fragile and weak. Back to reality, Xia asks what incident Mo is talking about, but her classmate changes the subject and says she remembered wrong. However, when she walks backward without looking, she ends up bumping into someone who had just entered the room. Xia tries to turn around quickly to apologize, but it only makes things worse, as the person is Ban Sheng and she just accidentally marked his uniform. She quickly disguises it, apologizes, and goes back to ignoring him again. Sijia stepped in front, smiling and saying good morning while explaining to him that Wakeshia hadn't done it on purpose. And Sijia looks incredibly happy. Two students commented on how long it had taken them to miss an entire class and asked how the couple's conversation went, making the girl blush when she heard that. Excited, she tells the boys not to talk nonsense while Ban was already near his desk, having left the girl behind. The protagonist realizes that the rumors about Ban and Sijia seem to be getting more popular in recent days, but strangely, he doesn't comment on anything. Curious, the girl wondered if he didn't care about others' opinions or if there was another reason. Upset with her thoughts, she tries to compose herself and think of something else since it's none of her business. Then Ban's friend asked the boy what that was on his shirt and who had the nerve to draw a heart on it. He then looked at his shirt, wondering what heart. The protagonist behind him realized it might have been when she accidentally bumped into him with a pen in her hand. Finding it amusing, Ban comments that it was probably a wild and ruthless cat. Before Zia could express any reaction to those words, someone took one of her earphones asking what she was listening to. Ning put Lin's earphone in his ear and commented on how amazing it was that her earphones were not on, and she was just using it like earplugs, even though when he put it on, it was not soundproof. Xia asks the boy to return her phone, but he lifts the earphone away from her, saying that he doesn't know why she is nervous if no sound is coming out of it. While the two are having their moment back there, Ban hears all of this, getting more and more irritated. Later, the friends are in different clothes outside, and Sijia comments that this outdoor school activity doesn't even make sense because of the terrible heat. Xia tells her friend to wait, as she will buy an iced lemongrass for both of them. It didn't take long, and she was already back with a big smile, but she hadn't noticed that her friend was already accompanied. Her friend was asking why Ban liked plum sweets so much and also asked if they were that delicious, to which he replied only with a yes, not seeming very interested in the subject. Sijia asks if she could go shopping with him, and at that moment Ban realizes that Zia is watching the two. He replies with a victorious smile that she could come, clearly teasing the protagonist. The friend simply apologizes to Xia and goes with Ban, leaving the poor girl behind with the 2 drinks in her hand. Thus went the whole week, Ban inviting Sijia to everything, and the protagonist began to notice that maybe he was doing this on purpose. She even thought it was a coincidence the first time, but it's becoming more and more obvious. As soon as the two left while Xia was holding the drinks, Ning appeared asking what she was doing alone there. The protagonist, who every time she sees him he is wearing pink, asks if he likes the color, but he says that actually it is his lucky color. Then he takes one of the drinks from her hand and says it was convenient because he was thirsty. Xia even tries to take the drink back, but Ning argues that since Sijia went with Ban, it would be a waste to throw that away. The young girl sighed, says that he is not feeling well, and leaves. what leaves Sijia super upset, questioning what she exactly is to him. A week after the incident, Sijia didn't show up at school any day, which worries her friend. Mo started whispering, catching Lin's attention as she shared that she had heard Sheng had canceled a date with Liu the previous weekend, meaning she had been rejected. This leaves the protagonist surprised. How could she have been rejected? The nearsighted girl also mentioned that she had heard the boy actually had a crush on a senior student in the final year. According to Fang Mo, the girl is too proud to show up at school and must have taken a leave to avoid being the subject of ridicule. The rumors leave Xia more worried, especially since she has been trying to contact her friend without success. Again, she tries to call Sijia. Even though no one answers, Xia realizes that at least this time it rang, probably because her friend turned her phone back on. Feeling guilty about the situation, Xia feels the need to fix things, so she decides to go after Ben Sheng to clear everything up. On the basketball court later, one of the classmates teases Ben, asking if he wanted him to teach him some moves. More confident, Ben says it will be very difficult, especially with the guy's poor skills. Quickly, he manages to dribble, heading towards the basket, and as soon as he scores, he says his friend is still not qualified. The two are impressed by his skill, but are interrupted by Xia, saying she needed to talk to him, which catches him off guard, but he just ignores her, saying he is not available at the moment. Even so, she insists, saying it will only be 5 minutes. Luckily, his friends have a bit more sense and say that Ban should give a chance to such a beautiful girl, since she is one of the prettiest who has come to see him lately. So, because of that, the friends decide to leave and let the two be alone. Now it seems he has no other choice. Turning to the protagonist, he just throws the ball towards her and says that if she can get the ball past him, he will give her 5 minutes of his time to listen to her. Determined, Xia says it's a deal. She does her best to manage to dribble the ball, while Ban keeps teasing, asking if she has any skills in basketball. After all, she is from the club, but it seems she can't even dribble the ball properly. The protagonist prepares to shoot the ball at the basket, but she is quickly intercepted by Ban. He returns the ball to her and warns that she is not capable of defeating him, so she should stop wasting her time. The protagonist knows she can't win against him in a direct confrontation, but maybe if she can use some fake moves to confuse him, who knows, she might have a chance. So, Xia starts moving from side to side just to trick him, but as soon as she shoots the ball, he intercepts again, praising her, telling her to try again. 20 minutes later, the poor girl is already exhausted, and he asks if she still wants to continue, while Chia still thinks about how she will manage to beat him, even without basketball skills. Determined, she grabs the ball again and runs towards him with her eyes closed, without thinking twice. The love-struck guy gets distracted by how close they are, and even more by the scent of her hair, and as if her words were an arrow that hit straight in the heart of the poor guy. As she passes by, she comments that she had never noticed he had a mole under his eye. At that moment, she had already passed him and was aiming for the basket, and so she shoots but doesn't score. But since the agreement was just to get past him, she won the challenge. So he is impressed with her determination and even more with how she managed to turn the tables, realizing that maybe he had been careless. While they cool off outside, Zhe goes straight to the point, saying that the other day she ended up delivering a letter, and that day people came in and she couldn't explain to him what had happened. She apologizes for creating the misunderstanding, but since she is Sijia's friend, she wouldn't want to see her suffering. So because of that, if possible, she would like him to go and talk to her friend to explain what happened. Well, then he asks what benefit it would be for him to do that, but embarrassed, Xia just replies that he can person and shouldn't need to apologize. However, before she sends it, her friend sends a voice message, saying that Ban left her waiting several times, in addition to having rejected her in various ways, and that she has never felt so mistreated since childhood. However, this afternoon he sent her a message apologizing and telling her not to focus too much on him, and that's why she's feeling better. But even so, she won't give up since she likes him a lot. Hearing this, Xia feels more relieved and deleting her message. She just says that she's happy and asks if her friend will go to school tomorrow, to which she agrees. One of the girls comments that while Sijia was out of school, several strange rumors started to appear, but Sijia decides to change the subject and thanks the girl for being concerned, saying that she will treat everyone to a meal next weekend. Ming arrives just in time while the protagonist is upset, standing like a statue in the hallway. He arrives saying that those girls are all fake, that a few days ago they were all being aggressive and insulting Sijia, and now that she's back, they pretend nothing happened. But before he finishes commenting, he notices the protagonist's eyes as if she hasn't slept in days, and asks if she's okay. Xia comments that she was making soup, which is why she more. Going back to how things used to be, Sijia is happy to be friends with Xia, and comments that they should go together for physical activity, but the protagonist has to use that time to distribute the Chinese papers. Later, while everyone is outside in class, Xia walks down the hallway with all the papers. Before she enters the room, she hears some gossip from a few girls commenting that maybe that student F is quite capable since she made a soup that pleased Sijia a lot. However, soon the girls start commenting that Weijia seems to pretend to be pure in front of the boys, but in reality, she thinks of herself as a goddess. And another girl comments that she also doesn't like the new student, that the bag Sijia gave as a gift was precisely because she was tired of being embarrassed with someone who had a really ugly and flimsy bag. Deciding to put an end to the gossip, Zia opens the classroom door, startling the girls, who quickly leave as if nothing was happening. And surprisingly, they all wear the blue ribbon, meaning they are also student F. Xia thinks that she doesn't care much about what others say, and remembers that she actually has a reward to pay to Ban, so she decides to send a message asking what he would like. Later, in the classroom, the teacher explains that the results of the tests had a significant change in the ranks, and the students must identify their weakest areas to improve more and more, and that the school tests are not the goal, but the path. For most students, the tests are just a summary of what they learned, but in that school, it's the moment they could drop to rank F if they don't make enough effort. The teacher explains that Bang Chen is still the best student in the school, especially in physics, and that sometimes the teacher even feels like putting the way he solved the problem on the classroom wall for others to learn. Bang's friend makes a joke saying that Bang is alive and breathing, so why would they hang him on the wall? Obviously, this makes Bang irritated, who kicks his friend, making him fall off the chair. The teacher scolds him, saying that he didn't get any of the answers right, even though it was multiple choice, while the students laugh. Finally, he comments that Wei Xia also did a great job and was second in the ranking, achieving the highest score on the Chinese test. All the students start whispering, impressed, some commenting positively, others saying that she is still an F student regardless. Mo is happy for her friend and says that she is amazing, which the protagonist appreciates. Before leaving, the teacher tells Xixia that her rank has dropped by 6 places and that she will soon be out of the top 10, so she should come to his office after class. Later, in the teacher's office, he questions how she managed to get some questions wrong with the level of knowledge she has. He even uses Wei Xia's test as an example to illustrate how meticulous she is in answering questions. And if she needs help, Wei Xia also did well in math, so she might ask for assistance. Sijia, irritated, says that fluctuating grades is normal. Moreover, if he is commenting on her grade, why does he keep bringing up Wei Xia in the conversation? The teacher gets annoyed, saying that he is just trying to help her and that she shouldn't speak to him like that. While the two are arguing, the protagonist enters the teacher's office, bringing some Chinese tests. The teacher dismisses Sijia, who walks past Xia without saying anything, ignoring her. The teacher comments that after the tests, he intends to place Wei Xia in a study group of his class, also asking her to help her desk mate improve his grades, as he has been practically failing everything. Later, in the study room, Xia hands her classmate several books where she marked the main points, just so he can read them. Ming thanks her, but tells her not to worry too much. After all, he doesn't intend to spend much time studying. Sijia makes a somewhat bitter comment about the boy, saying that he really doesn't need to study much, since he just has to go home and grill some skewers to inherit the family food stall, and she warns her friend not to waste time with him. He doesn't let it slide and provokes, saying that he is not like Miss Liu, who dresses nicely for the boys all day long. This irritates her, and she grabs the books to hit him. Xia says that she will only explain the main points so he doesn't have to solve all of them, which they both agree on. Sometime later, Ban enters the room with his friend, and they notice Xia and Ming studying at the back. She asks him to pay attention and stop dozing off, but Ming says it's getting harder because physics is very boring, dropping his head on the table while dozing off. Ban is completely focused on Xia while his friend tries to get his attention. He finally sits down and tells his friend that he won't be able to go to his house because he has plans for the weekend. Xia receives a message on her cell phone, and when she looks, it's a message from Ban asking her to spend a day of the weekend with him as a reward. The protagonist questions if that is all he wanted, and he replies that yes, just that. However, as soon as the weekend arrives, Xia wakes up with a terrible stomachache. Normally, whenever she is on her period, she ends up having various symptoms and a lot of pain. Last time, she fainted in front of the school and had another time when she ended up in the hospital. She remembers that she arranged to go to Ban's house in the afternoon. However, she decides to let him know that she is not feeling well and won't be able to go to his house. As soon as she sends the message, she notices that the house phone is ringing and shouts for her cousin to go answer it. But time passes and he doesn't come, because he was playing a game with headphones and wasn't even listening to the phone. Xia gets up and goes to his room door and realizes that he is completely immersed in his that she won't be able to come home for lunch and asks her to cook for her cousin. When the protagonist explains that she's not feeling well and asks if she could order something, your aunt seems to have not even listened and starts complaining about how difficult it has been to pay the bills lately. After all, there is another person living in the house, saying that it's all her uncle's fault, who is not working. Noticing the difficulty, Xia tells her aunt that everything is fine and that she will make food for her cousin. Later, the poor thing, dying of pain, is there cooking. And as soon as her cousin sees her in the kitchen, he tells her that if she is in a lot of pain, she doesn't need to cook, that he will eat instant noodles. But the protagonist warns that she will not let him stuff himself with junk food and asks for his help to cut the vegetables. Sometime later, almost finishing the dish, the pain starts to worsen, and someone calls Jia's cell phone. As soon as she answers, it's Ban asking what she is doing, to which she replies that she is cooking, and if he doesn't need to say anything, she will hang up. Ban is confused because if she is feeling unwell, why is she cooking? Meanwhile, the pain worsens a lot, and Jia can no longer even stand. So she informs her cousin that she set an alarm on her phone to remind her to turn off the stove. At the moment Zia is resting on her bed, her cousin is outside talking to someone on the phone, giving some directions. She even wonders who he is talking to since he is speaking so loudly, but the pain is so much that she simply goes back to sleep. Sometime later, her cousin knocks on the door saying that the food is ready. Jia gets up and asks if the rice is ready, that she will finish cooking the vegetables, and her cousin explains that she doesn't need to cook since they have food ready. Arriving at the table, she comes across a feast with various foods and asks where he got this from. Her cousin explains that someone called her phone saying that the delivery person couldn't get there, so he went to pick it up. When he got downstairs, he ended up finding a guy who said he was from Jia's class who brought the food. In addition, he brought a porridge and some heating pads for cramps. Excited, taking several photos, her cousin comments that it is a very expensive restaurant and that all his friends would be jealous to know that he ate food from there, stating that she has a very nice classmate since he did all this for her, making the protagonist embarrassed thinking about Ban Shen. Quickly going to her room, Jia decides to call Ban to thank him. As soon as he answers, the protagonist thanks him for the food and informs him that she will transfer the money for the food. Changing the subject, Ban asks if she ate the porridge, to which Xia replies that she hasn't yet, and he responds that she should eat it while it's still warm and use the heating pads. She explains that she can't receive all this without returning the favor, while she hears a noise outside. Ban tells her to save his number then. Opening the window, Xia tries to say that she will help him in Chinese class. At that moment, lowering his phone, Ban calls Wei Xia, and she realizes that he is right there below her window. To girl, asking who he is calling a chicken. At the moment, Sijia's snail pasta. Guys, snail pasta? Is that edible? Luckily, they are interrupted by someone placing a tray on the table asking if that spot is taken. When Sijia realizes it's Ban, she gets embarrassed, so she asks him to sit in front of her. But before she finishes the sentence, Ban's friend sits down, saying that if no one is there, he will sit. Clearly, she gets irritated, but lets it go, changing the subject, and asks why Ban drinks milk every day. The boy replies, half joking, that it's clearly because he wants to get taller. His friend gets offended after all. Ban is practically 1.87 meters tall, so how much taller does he want to grow? Continuing the joke, the friend says that Ban's shoulders are so broad that it even gives a sense of comfort when lying on them, to which Sijia starts laughing, saying that it is totally true. Sia, listening to everything, begins to think while eating. She specifically remembers those situations that happened with them previously, when she was leaning on his shoulder or when they played basketball. Sijia, noticing that her friend is distracted, asks if she is really going to eat just that pepper. At that moment, the protagonist realizes that she confused the beans with the pepper, and Ban questions what she was thinking so intensely. If perhaps it was because of the food she ate yesterday? At that moment, the protagonist, embarrassed and also not wanting to show what happened, starts to cough. And her friend gives her a bit of soup to drink and see if it helps with the cough. But someone passes by and bumps into her, causing her to spill the soup on her clothes and on the floor. The boy, seeing that he is the distributor for the industry that makes the school uniforms. As soon as she finishes changing, she realizes that something is missing. Her necklace has disappeared. Quickly, she tries to look on the floor to see if it fell somewhere, but she is interrupted when her friend calls her, saying that she did poorly on the tests, precisely because she was distracted, and she also warns that she will not give up on Ban Shen and will definitely not lose to Wei Xia. Then, her friend leaves, leaving her alone. Shortly after, in the classroom, two people are arguing, which catches the protagonist's attention. A boy keeps provoking a girl, saying that she needs to watch where she walks and that because of her, his clothes are dirty. Unable to watch it any longer, Jia tells the boy that it wasn't the girl's fault and that she will compensate him for the cost of washing the clothes, if necessary. The boy just says he will spare the situation because a very pretty girl is asking. But that next time that girl should be more careful. The girl thanks Xia and comments that she would also like to borrow her notebook because of her notes. The protagonist clearly agrees and says it's on her desk. She can take it whenever she needs it, and if she doesn't understand something, she should feel free to ask. As soon as she leaves the room, she finds Ban standing in the hallway. Before she can ignore him, he puts his foot down, preventing her from, and he would like to know who gave it to her. The protagonist doesn't respond and just asks him to return it. Obviously, he is not going to return it that easily, and even states that if she begs, maybe he will consider returning it, even against her will. Jia then says that since she is an F student, they ended up telling her. Very happy with the news, Sijia hugs the protagonist and says that if everything goes well, she will buy an ice cream for her friend. Ming interrupts the two, saying that Sijia is distracting him from seeing the answers. And again, the two start arguing, as if they were cat and mouse. Xia's alarm starts ringing, and she wonders if it's because it's already past 6, until she notes that on Ban's profile, it was written to reach the unreachable star, and she questions if this is his profile description for close friends. Looking at the posts, she sees that he posts various foods and things like that, which makes her happy to know that he has a side like that which she didn't know about, and she comments to her friend that Ban also likes to eat coconut with milk and jelly, to which Sijia says she will learn to make it to give to him soon. However, the next day, it seems it wasn't that easy, as Sijia was struggling just to make a dessert and that it might be better to just buy it. While showing her all bruised hands from trying to cook, Sijia comments that investing in getting to know Ban better is very difficult. Then the protagonist gives another idea. If he likes astronomy, she could invest in that. And as she saw online, in 2 days it will be possible to see the Milky Way on Friday. This makes Sijia super excited, believing that maybe God is on her side for having such an incredible opportunity to invite him. And still a bit shaken by the situation, Sijia tries only to wish that her friend gets what she really wants. Sometime later, already in the classroom, one of the classmates asks if Ban wants to do his homework. He hands over the notebook, and as if he had been waiting for this opportunity to talk to her, he asks when she is going to his house. But the protagonist changes the subject and says they can talk about it later, since she is very busy this week. Not letting go of the notebook for her to continue, paying attention to him, Ban asks if she is avoiding him again. As there was no response, he places 2 candies on top of the notebook and turns around saying that he bought something on the way, and the shop owner gave him those candies as a gift. His friend arrives at that moment asking if he still has those sweets he bought. However, Ban says they are gone since he gave the last ones to a butterfly, which leaves the friend confused because butterflies don't eat sweets. To provoke a bit more, he adds that the butterflies always stay on the defensive with him, eat, and then fly away. While the friend tries to understand what the relation is with the butterfly, the protagonist, who knows very well that this was meant for her, feels embarrassed. At the end of the day, Waxia and a classmate are cleaning the board. While the protagonist comments that this time they will have to draw the mural, the classmate complains saying that only F students should do that, since the time of the other students is very precious. Obviously, Shia says that the school's rotation system does not make distinctions between students, and drawing the mural is also an obligation for both F students and A students, but it seems that the girl is not even interested in listening, as she leaves saying that it doesn't even make sense because the whole school is divided, and that her hand is numb so she won't do the mural. If Xia wants to do it, that's fine. If not, then it's her problem. The poor girl stays late doing it alone, since the other girl simply abandoned her, and after a few hours she finally finishes the mural. When she picks up her phone to check the time, she realizes that it is probably quite late, but her phone is out of battery. And while walking through the school corridors, leaving, Xia hears the sound of a cello. Arriving at the entrance of the room, she sees some students practicing in the cello club. This reminds her of the time when she also played, where she even participated in a concert. Her thoughts are interrupted when the girls start to leave. Xia is startled, as she thought they would see her mimicking the cello in the air. But to her surprise, no one noticed her presence there. When she finally decides to continue her way home very slowly, she ends up slipping. But before she falls, someone grabs her by the strap of her bag, telling her to be careful. Obviously, it's our dear Ban Sheng. She thanks him for the help and asks why he hasn't left yet. While Ban explains that he came back to grab some things he had forgotten, lighting a lighter, he invites her to stay close, so she avoids falling in the dark. The protagonist follows the instructions. The matter, Ban asks if he should accept Sijia's confession. Noticing that the protagonist just turns her flushed face without answering anything, Ban holds her chin, forcing her to look into his eyes, stating that he is the one who decides whom he likes. And precisely for that reason, he only wants to be with Xia. Annoyed by the sudden declaration, Xia says she will only be with him when it snows in Nanjun, which leaves the boy upset. After all, it hasn't snowed in that city for decades. Therefore, he concludes that what she is trying to say is that it's practically impossible for them to be together. Upset, he simply tells her not to speak so definitively and walks away. A few days later, Wei Xia started avoiding talking to Ban Shen again. With that, she found a way to always create an excuse to refuse class activities, and also the invitations from other students in Class A, which was making Ban quite impatient. While she was distributing notebooks around the classroom, some girls were gossiping, saying that no matter what Wei-xia tried to do, even with high grades, it would never change the fact that she was an F student, since she only knows how to study and her family has no money or power. Mo asks if Xia is okay with these rumors, telling her not to worry, as it's common for those girls to do that, but they will stop soon. However, the protagonist is not willing to wait and says that this time she will not tolerate it. Speaking loudly, she says that this kind of behavior is totally immature, and the need to belittle others to have a false sense of superiority is even worse. And this ridiculous sense of pleasure usually comes from an intense reaction from the other party. However, she will not give that pleasure to those girls. Irritated and not understanding why Xia responded that way, the girls decide to leave the classroom. They end up bumping into Ban at the exit. The two stare at each other for a moment, but no one says anything. Then Xia asks Mo to finish handing out the homework as she needs to go to the bath every way. She seems to be feeling more and more anxious and having difficulty controlling her emotions. On the way, she ends up meeting Ming, who greets her. But upon looking at him, she notices that he is all bruised and asks if he ended up fighting with someone, to which he agrees, saying it was a gang from another school that loves to cause trouble. Quickly, the protagonist says she will go to the infirmary to get some medicine for him, which makes him worried, as it's almost time for class. And Ban, at the classroom door, ended up witnessing this whole conversation. Sometime after class had started, Wei Xia rushes into the classroom and the teacher scolds her for being late. One of the boys in the class comments that she is late because she went to get medicine for her deskmate. And even Ban's friend makes a joke saying that Xia and Ming make a great couple, but he feels jabs coming from his back, and there's clearly something wrong with Bansheng. Ming, seeing that he is having difficulty applying the medication using the mirror, asks Xia if he is doing it correctly, which she clearly sees is very crooked and tells him that she can help with the application to get it right. When she approaches to start applying, someone calls Ming, it's Ban, with a not-so-friendly face asking Ming to step outside for a minute to talk to him. Ming takes it well, but says it's strange because usually, students don't lower themselves to talk to people like them, and walks towards the exit telling Ban to follow him, which leaves the protagonist anxious and Sijia confused. After all, she just arrived in the room. The friend questions why Ban called Ming for a conversation, but the protagonist has no idea. Then Xia says that since Wei Xia will help her win over Ban, she was investigating some things in the morning but before she finishes the sentence, the protagonist cuts her off saying she's very sorry but she won't be able to help, which catches the girl off guard. Not understanding, Wei Xia tells her friend that the Chinese language teacher recommended she participate in the national poetry contest. And because of that, she will be quite busy and won't be able to accompany her friend all the time or even go to the basketball club. Relieved that it's just because she is busy, Sijia says she totally understands and will support her friend 100%. The two get all lovey-dovey complimenting each other, but in reality, Wei Xia is worried, and that perhaps the best solution is indeed to avoid Ban. She types that she has a commitment and won't be able to attend. He sends another message saying that if she doesn't come, he will tell Sijia that he is interested in her. Ban is excited, just waiting for Ji's response, while Sijia, who is in the car, completely ignored, asks if by any chance Ban is in a bad mood today, and he, smiling, says that actually it's the opposite, especially because he just saw Xia's message confirming that she will keep her word. Meanwhile, she finds her cousin in front of the school and notices that he has a bruised mouth and face, asking if someone fought or hit him. Of course, he replies that no, he just got hurt on the way and asks them to hurry home. But before they leave, a boy appears with a knife in hand, questioning if that isn't Hang, and he also asks who that pretty girl is who is with him. The cousin stands in front of Xia, as if to protect her, and tells the boy not to be a nuisance, which makes the situation even worse since the boy had a knife in hand and starts to get irritated. The friends tell him to let it go since it's raining heavily, and as a strong lightning strikes nearby, those kids start running away to the subway, saying that Xia's cousin will regret it. The protagonist, realizing the situation, warns that she won't tell their aunt, but asks him not to get into trouble anymore, so he doesn't get hurt. The cousin says he understands and takes Xia's bag, telling them to hurry home. On the way, he comments that the weather forecast says it will get very cold this weekend and asks if his cousin plans to go out, to which she replies that yes, she has to help a friend with homework. When the weekend arrives, Xia is at Ban's door, ringing the bell, but he suddenly appears behind her, opening the door for her to enter the huge house, which even has a pool. Ban says that if she is interested, she can explore the house at will, and then pushes her, making her fall towards the pool. But before she makes contact with the water, he catches her from behind, hugging her from behind. Even when he lets go, the poor girl is still in shock, thinking she had fallen into the pool, and Ban starts laughing, saying it's funny how scared she got. However, Xia is irritated and says says that this is not funny at all. Changing the subject, Xia says for them to go inside since it's cold and to resolve the homework issue quickly. In the office, she notices several photos he has of the starry sky, and Ban comments that this photo was taken by him on a mountain, and that on that day he was crouched down in the middle of the night, suffering from the altitude, and because of that, he ended up slipping down the slope and breaking his leg, which still has a metal pin in the bone. Xia is impressed and says that he really has an adventurous spirit. Poor thing. What kind of reaction is that, young man? The boy broke his leg. He hands her a cup of tea. Again, she is moved by the little details because the tea is at room temperature, ready to be drunk. Ban comments that he likes to observe two lonely satellites that cover each other, and Xia, looking at the photo, says that they are indeed very beautiful. Letting himself be carried away, Ban extends his hand to touch Tia's hair, revealing a little piece of her ear, which makes her completely uncomfortable, and asks him not to touch her. But we know that it's actually because of her hearing aid. However, Ban feels upset. After all, it seems like he has something contagious and can't even get close. A phone call ends up breaking that awkward atmosphere between the two, and it's Xia's aunt saying that her cousin got into a fight at school and was sent to the hospital. Apparently, the family of the boy who fought with him has a lot of money and power, and no matter how many times his aunt apologizes, they do not accept reconciliation and are threatening to sue his cousin, which makes her more worried that this will tarnish his resume, and he won't be able to get a job in the future. The protagonist tells her aunt not to worry because she is going there right at this moment. Then she starts to pack her things and tells Ban that a problem has come up at her house and that they can reschedule the lesson for another day, leaving quickly. Ban asks where her cousin studies and what the name of the family that is suing is. Showing that he actually heard the whole conversation, Xia says it's at school 13 and the person he fought with is named Fang. Apparently, Ban knows this family and says he has dealt with Fang's brother twice, warning that he can resolve the issue with her cousin quickly. The protagonist is impressed, but still, she just turns away without saying anything, knowing that this kind of attitude from him is the same as when he had her necklace, meaning he will want something in return, and not wanting to owe him anything more. She just grabs her umbrella and says she is leaving, since the rain is going to get worse soon and it will be even harder to get out. Irritated, Ban shouts Weisha's name and asks if it is that difficult to ask him for help, but the protagonist says nothing and just leaves, leaving the poor boy alone and upset. Arriving at the hospital, Xia finds her cousin in the corner and runs towards him while her aunt apologizes. The guy doesn't seem at all inclined to forgive anything that happened there and just says that she doesn't need to say anything more and should prepare for the lawsuit. Begging, the aunt says she will pay any amount of medical expenses if he has a little compassion, but the guy just says that this is not his decision but the president's and that he doesn't want to see them anymore. Xia approaches, helping her aunt to get up, and the cousin warns that the guys have already left and that his mother doesn't need to ask anymore, telling them to just go home, upset and not knowing how they will resolve this situation. That's it, guys. We've finished part 2 of this super cute story here on the Misa Manhwa channel. What do you think will happen next? Will Xia ask Ban for help? Will she finally accept her feelings for him and give the boy a chance? It's a complicated situation when someone likes you, but your friend also likes that same person. Have you ever gone through something like that? What would you do in this case? This story is called Can You Hear Me? I've covered it up to chapter 28, but if you like it, I can bring more. Every time it reaches 100,000 views, I'll try to post the continuation for you guys. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new uploads. Kisses, and see you next time.